Hello, everybody. We're back with another day with me, the good old Cool Frog. Today, we're talking about your president, Joe Biden. He had some interesting things to say, and oh my lord, this man, I tell ya.
I've been having these quiet conversations with the members of Congress for the last 2 months. I'm tired of being quiet.
Tired of being quiet.
Folks, it'll restore the strength of the Voting Rights Act of 65. The one President Johnson signed after John Lewis was beaten, nearly killed on Bloody Sunday, only to have the Supreme Court weaken it multiple times over the past decade. Restoring the Voting Rights Act would mean that Justice Department can stop discriminatory laws before they go into effect. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights bills since day one of this administration, but each and every time, Senate Republicans have blocked the way. Republicans oppose even debating the issue. You hear me?
We can hear you, but you're lying.
I've been in the Senate a long time. I was Vice President for 8 years. I've never seen a circumstance where not one single Republican has a voice that's ready to speak for justice now. When I was a senator, including when I headed up the Judiciary Committee, I helped reauthorize the Voting Act 3 times. We held hearings, we debated, we voted. Was able to extend the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. In 2006, the Voting Rights Act passed 390 to 33 in the House of Representatives and 98 to 0 in the Senate, with votes from 16 current sitting Republicans in this United States Senate. 16 of them voted to extend it. The last year I was chairman, some of my friends sitting down here will tell you, Strom Thurmond voted to extend the Voting Rights Act. Strom Thurmond. You can say that again. Wow. You have no idea how darn hard I worked on that one. But folks, then it was signed into law the last time by President George W. Bush. You know, when we get voting rights extended in 1980, as I said, even Thurmond supported it. Think about that. The man who led the longest one of the longest filibusters in history in the United States Senate, 1957, against the Voting Rights Act. The man who led and sided with all Southern bulls in the United States Senate to perpetuate segregation in this nation. Even Strom Thurmond came to support voting rights. But Republicans today can't and won't. Not a single Republican has displayed the courage to stand up to a defeated president to protect America's right to vote. Not one. Not one. We have 50-50 in the United States Senate. That means we have 51 presidents. You all think I'm kidding. I've been pretty good at working with senators my career. But man, when you got 51 presidents, it gets harder. Any one can change the outcome. Sadly,
does he even know what he's talking about?
Designed to be the world's greatest deliberative body, has been rendered a shell of its former self. Gives me no satisfaction in saying that as an institutionalist, as a man who was honored to serve in the Senate. But as an institutionalist, I believe that the threat to our democracy is so grave that we must find a way to pass these voting rights bills. Debate them, vote,
complete the full sentence.
Prevail. And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
Getting rid of a filibuster is one of the most moronic, idiotic things that I've ever heard of. This man has used the filibuster more than any to get his point across, but let's take it away from everybody else so that way minority no longer has a vote on any of it. That's just ridiculous. This guy is disgusting.
You know, last year, if I'm not mistaken, the filibuster was used 154 times.
Don't talk about the 300 that you used
Filibuster
it
has been used
the year
to generate
before.
compromise in the past, promote some bipartisanship, but it's also used to obstruct, including especially obstruct civil rights and voting rights. And when it was used, senators traditionally used to have to stand and speak at their desk for however long it took. And sometimes it took hours. And when they sat down, if no one immediately stood up, anyone could call for a vote or the debate ended. But that doesn't happen today. Senators no longer even have to speak one word. Filibuster is not used by Republicans to bring the Senate together, but to pull it further apart.
But Democrats use it correctly.
And abused. While the state legislative assaults on voting rights is simple, all you need in your House and Senate is a pure majority. The United States Senate, it takes a supermajority, 60 votes, even to get a vote, instead of 50 to protect the right to vote. State legislators can pass anti-voting laws with simple majorities. If they can do that, then the United States Senate should be able to protect voting rights by a simple majority. Today, I'm making it clear, to protect our democracy, I support changing the Senate rules, whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking action on voting rights. When it comes to protecting majority rule in America, the majority should rule in the United States Senate. I make this announcement with careful deliberation, recognizing the fundamental right to vote is a right from which all other rights flow.
But you're doing just the opposite.
To my Republican colleagues, to those Republicans who believe in the rule of law, restore the bipartisan tradition of voting rights. People who restored it, who abided by it in the past were Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush. They all supported the Voting Rights Act. Don't let the Republican Party morph into something else. Restore the institution of the Senate the way it was designed to be. Senate rules were just changed to raise the debt ceiling so we wouldn't renege on our debt for the first time in our history, prevent an economic crisis. That was done by simple majority. As Senator Warnock said a few weeks ago in a powerful speech, if we change the rules to protect the full faith and credit of the United States, we should be able to change the rules to protect the heart and soul of our democracy. He was right. In the days that followed John Lewis's death, there was an outpouring of praise and support across the political spectrum. But as we stand here today, it isn't enough just to praise his memory. We must translate eulogy into action. We need to follow John Lewis's footsteps. We need to support the bill in his name. Just a few days ago, we talked about...
As he's speaking, that's what's going on right now in the Senate. They're actually talking about it right now.
Up in the Congress and the White House, the event coming up shortly to celebrate Dr. King's birthday. And
it might actually be done and over with by the time you see this.
Americans of all stripes will praise him for the content of his character. But as Dr. King's family said before, it's not enough to praise their father. They even said on this holiday, don't celebrate his birthday unless you're willing to support what he lived for and what he died for.
Yeah, equal rights for everybody. Not just to the people that you think they're for.
The next few days, when these bills come to a vote, will mark a turning point in this nation's history. We will choose. The issue is, will we choose democracy over autocracy, light over shadows, justice over injustice? I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic. The question is, where will the institution of the United States Senate stand? Every senator, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, will have to declare where they stand, not just for the moment, but for the ages. Will you stand against voter suppression? Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer. Will you stand against election subversion? Yes or no? Will you stand for democracy? Yes or no? There's one thing every senator, every American should remember. History has never been kind to those who've sided with voter suppression over voters' rights. And it'll even be less kind for those who side with election subversion. So I ask every elected official in America, how do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? This is the moment to decide, to defend our elections, to defend our democracy.
So he wants to defend our democracy, and he actually goes and he calls these three people out. Bull Connor, was an American politician who served as Commissioner of Public Safety in the city of Birmingham, Alabama for more than 2 decades, a member of the Democratic Party. George Wallace, as an American politician who served as the 45th governor of Alabama for 4 terms, a member of the Democratic Party. Jefferson Davis, as an American politician who served as the President of the Confederate States from 1861 to 1865 as a member of the Democratic Party. Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. This guy is disgusting. He doesn't even know what he's even talking about. So then let's move on a little bit here. We got a few other things that we got, set for today. Let's see, what was this? Oh, this says Democratic presidential candidates agree with Rob on the importance of the South. Senator Joseph Biden of Delaware, for example, tells Southerners that the lower half of the state is culturally part of Dixie. He reminds them the former Alabama governor, George Wallace, praised him as one of the outstanding young politicians of America. Really, he praised him, huh? So then we have this lady, Nancy Pelosi, who says Biden's reference to Bull Connor likely went over most Americans' heads. She thinks we're stupid. She thinks we don't even know what we're even talking about. She thinks that we're so stupid that we don't know who Bull Connor is. I just showed you who Bull Connor was. He was a Democrat. Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Thursday she thought President Biden's speech in Georgia about the GOP threat on voting rights was wonderful, but that most Americans were ignorant about the significance of Bull Connor. Nobody knows who Bull Connor is. we're making a case to say if you're going to be with Martin Luther King or Bull Connor, who's that, she said. Mrs. Pelosi suggested that Mr. Biden should have said the choice over the Democrats' voting bill is a choice between siding with Martin Luther King and John Lewis or the people who unleashed the fierce dogs on them. Strom Thurmond? None of us have a lot of happy memories of Strom Thurmond. She added that the late South Carolina Republican senator who previously served as pro-segregationist Democrat senator until 1964 when he became a Republican. Yeah, right. So let's go and let's move on a little bit here. Let's move to the next thing that I got here. Oh, what's this? The myth of the Republican-Democrat switch. When faced with the sobering reality that Democrats supported slavery, started the Civil War, when the abolitionist Republican Party won the presidency, established the Ku Klux Klan to brutalize newly freed slaves and keep them from voting, opposed the civil rights movement, modern-day liberals reflexively perpetuate rather pernicious myth that the racist Southern Democrats of the 50s and 60s became Republicans, leading that the so-called switch of the parties. This is ridiculous and is easily debunked. The Republican Party, of course, was founded in 1848 by the one and only Abraham Lincoln. Won the 1860 election, Democrat-controlled southern states seceded on the assumption that Lincoln would destroy their slave-based economies. In 1960, Democrats held every Senate seat south of the Mason-Dixon line. In the 13 states that made the Confederacy a century earlier, Democrats held the staggering 117-8 advantage in the House of Representatives. The Democrat Party was so strong in the South that those 117 House members made up a full 41% of the Democrats' 283 to 153 advantage in the chamber. We can kind of move on a little bit through here and we'll get down. There's a lot to it. I don't want to read all of it for you. We just want to debunk it. The myth of the great Republican-Democrat switch similarly falters under the weight of actual historical analysis, and it becomes clear that prolonged electoral shifts combined with the phenomenal nationwide popularity of Republicans Richard Nixon in 1972 and Ronald Reagan in 1980 and 84 were the reason for the Republican strength in the South. Reagan in particular introduced the entire nation to conservative policies that it loved, sparking a new generation of Republican voters and politicians who still have tremendous influence today. Racism had nothing to do with it. That is simply a Democratic myth. Go figure. What else we got going on here? Oh, what's this guy have to say? I wonder.
But even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
Go figure. What? Dr. King's death wasn't as significant as George Floyd's death? Look at that. Look at that. It was trending last night. And look, it was still trending today. Biden, worst president ever. What was this one?
Explaining to do. The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
His memory had failed him, that he wasn't the top in his class, that he was actually the bottom of his class. He forgot that he had a low GPA and just simply thought that he had a high GPA. Who is this man? This man is disgusting. Oh, what was this one?
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitude. And we changed attitude.
He claimed he marched in the civil rights movement.
When I was 17 years old, like many of you, I participated in sit-ins to desegregate the restaurants and movie houses of Wilmington, Delaware. I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff.
Compulsive liar.
During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else. I was a suburbanite kid who got a dose of exposure to what was happening to black Americans when I'm in my own city.
You know, when I was a teenager in Delaware, for real, I got involved in the civil rights movement. We have the 8th largest black population in America. Most people don't know that. And I'd go to 8 o'clock Mass, then I'd go to Reverend Herring's church where we meet in order to organize.
This man is so ignorant.
I got my education for real in the black church. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. But I got my education, Reverend Doc, in the black church. Not a joke. Because when we used to get organized on Sundays to go out and desegregate movie theaters and things like that, we do it through the black church. I was no big shakes, Reverend, in the civil rights movement. I was just a kid. I got involved in desegregated movie theaters and helping, you may remember Reverend Moyer in Delaware and Herman Holloway organized voter registration drives.
When I marched in the civil rights...
What is compulsive liar is this guy? This guy is just sickening. I'm so sick of hearing about this guy. We got a couple more things that we're going to go through here.
Senator Joseph Biden dropped out of the hunt today, saying the disclosures about his plagiarism in law school and his exaggerations about his academic record made it impossible for him to continue.
I do it with incredible reluctance, and it makes me angry. I'm angry with myself for having been put myself in the position of having to make this choice.
The Delaware Democrat is the second candidate to be forced from the race by questions of character and integrity.
Go figure. What? Oh, really? You don't say. It's... Yeah, remind me again, who's the fascist? Oh, there's the official portrait of the 46th President of the United States, Mr. Walkaway Biden. That's right. F this guy. Let's go Brandon. And then, yeah, absolutely. Let's take care of both of them. They don't need to be there. They're the racists. They're the ones that are against what is just.